expected to make it. So
Logical Raptors fanatic.
shoot, trying to miss. Like every shot,
Logical Raptors fanatic.
try to make it. So I was gonna act surprised.
A fun guy. Obviously,
Logical Raptors fanatic.
love the game of basketball. I mean, it's just more questions you have to ask me in order for me to tell you about.
Logical Raptors fanatic.
I just can't give you a whole spiel. I don't even know where you're sitting at.
Salute, real ones. Mike G back here with Logical Raptors fanatic. Project Truth always. I'm gonna touch on that in housekeeping and Logical Phase 2 in activated. And obviously this is a part 2 of our series here. So part 1, self-explanatory, did a lot of the groundwork. Now we're gonna look more at the decision between Fred and Delon and hear from the big boss man because I got some feedback. Someone liked the edit, so got more edits, got more clips. Just sit back and enjoy. And if the pace gets a little too slow, 1.25 speed is perfect. That's how I listen to my stuff back. So maybe that if you don't have as much time, I'm gonna try to be mindful on the time, but let's get into it. So let's dive deeper and enjoy.
Probably my third year. Um, that was really when I would say had my breakthrough year. Me and Fred would kind of split. Fred VanVleet would split time in the backcourt on the second unit, and he had got hurt that first round before the first round against the Wizards. So I was, I had more of a role in that series, and I pretty much played the whole game guarding John Wall and Bradley Beal, and we made it out of the first round. So that was kind of like my coming out party with them, needing me to step up. So that was probably my favorite year, and I feel like that's the most memorable year that I had with them.
So obviously in the ending of part 1, we converged second year, well, we compared second year DeLon and second year VanVleet and noticed that VanVleet was sort of already overtaking Delon Wright. And in that clip, he does say that kind of in a he doesn't directly say it, but he kind of hints at the fact that Fred was higher up on the depth chart than him. And there's a next part that we'll go into in a second with him saying certain stuff, but I want to get really into the decision part. How the Raptors decide between two prospects, right? One they drafted at 20, takes investment and growth and stuff, and we have another undrafted guard. Less time has already kind of met the same marks, right? So let's actually compare them and do like the direct comparison now because I think they're at the more of the same talent level point. And this is the bench mob year, right? So there was a great kind of unit there, and we're gonna see each part in that, right? And kind of dissect this bench mob year because I love this year. It was a great year, such great energy, and I think obviously Van Vliet was a big part in that. But let's actually get into the context of what that was, right? So age-wise, he's 2 years older than Van Vliet. Okay, Van Vliet to the bottom, obviously Delon Wright to the top. So Fred Van Vliet played more games, but Delon started 4 games, about the same minutes, about the same attempts, about well, Delon's better at getting to the rack, so obviously you're gonna see a little bit of a difference displayed there. But let's go to 3-ball. Obviously, Fred, NBA level now, has understand how to get off his 3-ball more efficiently and is at a 4.14 for the year, where Delon Wright kind of still trying to get volume up, still finding difficulty in making shots against the set defense and all that kind of stuff, and open shots, and the kind of shots that are available to this type of role. Because it's also about understanding the role escalation. Like vanvleet in part one, the first clip that we kind of started off with vanvleet talking about how he earned his from deep bench position to starter, right? And he was talking about creating his own consistency. And it's about putting max effort. That's how you create consistency, showing that you're willing to put everything on the line, right? And I think Van Vliet embodies a lot of that, but his role has changed now. See, he was talking about picking up 93 feet, making his shots, right? He was putting all his energy into complimenting the guys on the floor. But now he's kind of one of the main core pieces, and the other guys need to start doing that, throwing that effort in and showing that hustle and making their shots, right? Exactly kind of what he did to get his place. He's giving them a blueprint to what to do to become him one day. And I think that's where you can draw the connections from this era to the next era between these two different battles of point guards we have going on, and maybe draw similarities. I think I got tons more raw info from the man Masai. I'm going to pull it out in a second, but we'll continue on. Let's go. So 3-pointer, obviously, VanVleet's beating him there. Okay. See, about the same 2-point average, and obviously Delon can get to the rack better, right? But you got to understand also that we have better people that can get to the rack. Spicy P can get to the rack way better than Delon. So pushing attempts up wouldn't necessarily scale to wins. It's a different type of guards need to have great shooting, distance shooting, because of the position they play and where they need to be dangerous on the floor to be guarded. And I think that's obviously one of Simmons' issues. And I think the 3-ball is really key for guards now. And well, key for every player, right? It's about creating space, pulling the defender up, and then having more chances to blow by easier and getting to the secondary defense, which Pascal talks about, where he says he doesn't even see the first defender anymore because he knows the motions to kind of get by him in a second aren't even really tough or really that difficult for him now that he's put in so much work on it through the down years of the Beyblade years and stuff, right? So let's continue on. So obviously Fred VanVleet's um, 2-pointer has gotten way up because it was at a 403. Now it's up 30 points in the actual NBA. So it's obviously showing improvement, right? It's about showing improvement and enough improvement. Like you have to kind of show improvement at the next role, at the next phase quickly. If there's a delay in that, I think they feel that maybe they could bring in another prospect that's better at that position. And I think we're going to touch on it in a second. Actually, maybe let's touch on it now.
No, we're trying to get as many athletes as we can. Shooting premium in the league. It's not that they're not easy to find, and that's why, Eric, to your question, we try to develop, as the best as you can, and the best way to explain it sometimes is patience. Within, and not all players are going to develop as fast as the others. Sometimes it takes time. That's why sometimes a guy like O'Shea goes somewhere else, and you see, it takes time and he's developed and he's playing on another team, right? I just give that example. I don't mean to mention another team's player, but these are the examples you have where Sometimes, like it takes time for them to develop, and sometimes, you shut the door too quick. We have to make that judgment, and then we have to bring other players to our team. I think character, athletic ability, we like two-way players. Everybody does. They're hard to find, but we try to build from within.
All right, so we heard from the boss man himself, Masai Ujiri, the man. But okay, he went into how some players develop in their own time, and sometimes you make decision too quick. And I talked about the O'Shea Brissett decision in my 2A series and kind of mentioned this exact point, and I think this clip would have been perfect to show then. So there's going to be some backtracking a little bit, but the point being, right, he wants players to develop and he's fine with them not being perfect off the start, but they need to show that development from year to year, right? Or else they're going to have to make a decision whether they bring in another guy that might do better off what we're offering and grow more. So this is the shell game you're kind of picking, right? Sometimes you make the decision too early, and that player goes on and shows more, like O'Shea Brissett, and it looked like he needed a little more time, and we kind of made a bad decision there. And I said he regretted it and kind of would influence his Champagny decision this year, but besides that, he wants people to grow, right? It's about growing those skills, right? Hey, shooting is hard to find, so we're going to look to build shooters. So they're not going to be perfect right off the start. They're going to hit walls like Pascal did and like Fred VanVleet does and has done, DeMar, Kyle. Every player goes through these walls. So I think it's important to understand like the timeline of that player and where they're at. And I think it's really key to show that Fred VanVleet has grown quicker. And I think we're going to go into what the reasons why, but let's continue on here. So we left off at his 2-pointer, so obviously we saw an upgrade in that, hensing me talking about the developing part of shooting, right? So we got free throws higher, similar attempts. Yeah, I think obviously Delon Wright was going to the basket more, so getting a bit more calls. But VanVleet can get his own right, and we're looking at rebounds now. So 2.9 versus 2.4. Similar kind of breakdown. Obviously VanVleet half a rebound back, right? And I think assists, so 2.9 versus 3.2. So it looks like Fred VanVleet's a better assist maker, right? He's better at playmaking, even at the smaller height. And Delon having a height advantage and a length advantage and having all of the advantages of regular point guards that people want. VanVleet was better in his second year than Delon in his third year. So I think certain aspects do pan out over time, like we've seen kind of DeLon bounce around and not really get the main keys of the team and be point guard, but making kind of mistakes on plays a bit and being more there for his defensive hustle, but makes defensive mistakes there too. So he's he just wasn't able to kind of get over that wall where VanVleet clearly has and will continue on. So steals 1.0 versus oh 09, so pretty close. Blocks, yeah, the height is kind of playing in, but VanVleet's closing the gap because he's learning how to play better against NBA teams. So higher assists, lower turnovers for VanVleet, and they're pretty much the same, so I'll call it even, right? And so obviously VanVleet getting less steals and blocks, gets more called on fouls, but he scores more points. So you're starting to see a real overtake of Delon Wright here. And I think we need to key in on a certain aspect here, which I'm going to deliver right at this second.
Don't necessarily fit the mold or what you guys vision as a team, but are really talented. How do you balance bringing in guys who are talented but don't necessarily fit and just adding talent versus the vision you guys have for the roster?
That one is beyond me, so I'll leave that to Bobby. But that's Bobby's job, not mine. Me, I'm doing the athletic guys, the long athletic guys. It's crazy. The eye, like for talent and fit, like on a team, and sometimes it's not necessarily like what you even like see out there. I totally like agree with you. It could be like a shooter that you're putting that's not as athletic as these guys. But we want to play on both sides of the court. That's really important, and it's just a fine line. There's a lot of luck to it. When you try to find those guys that actually like fit, really, really fit, and we're hoping, we hope that I trust our scouts, our player personnel guys. They've done an excellent job, and hopefully we'll continue to. If we can't find them, we will develop them. That's what we're hoping. Yeah.
So it's key to understand that even though VanVleet's smaller, Masai doesn't look at things that way. He looks at players in the sense of what fits. Well, Bobby does more of the small guards, hard number crunching, see what kind of play dynamics work and kind of dissect the number and fits of different players based on numbers, and he's really online with that kind of element. And then you heard Masai. I think Masai's more of a character judge. He could tell who's going to be special, who's got the specialness, who's got the it, because he has the it factor. Right? Like I said, dog see dog, it factor see it factor, right? So I think it's really interesting the dynamic between their partnership where Bobby is more the numbers guy and fit guy. And I think obviously Masai is really great at judging guys that don't have a lot of skill and making larger projections on their career. And he does trust his scouts and his coaches and all that kind of stuff. But I think ultimately we do have to look at the numbers and understand that they know kind of more about the players than we do. And there is another element to it, which Masai said in the beginning, the first clip I presented, where he talked about character and athletic skill and playing both sides of the ball. That's what really matters. Playing both sides of the ball and being a pillar player, like to the pillars, right? And the pillars are talking about offense being team sharing offense, and then on defense, full effort, full energy on defense. Character being another pillar, so winning, being family first, team first, you know what I mean? And then respect. I think respect is a big pillar for us because the respect needs to be pure, like I said before in the Rico Hines thing and a whole bunch of other things. I think the purity and the message, and these guys want to win so bad. All right, let me throw another clip in here.
Mentioned, like about winning, and to me, this game is about winning. Simple. Yeah. There's nothing else. It's only winning. Yeah. We want to win in Toronto. Yeah, I say it all the time. It's winning. Nothing else. Nothing. We can come hold hands, do whatever we want, hug, wear masks, do anything we want. Okay? Winning. Yeah, winning. Empty stadium, full stadium, winning. That's it. That's the kind of players we try to bring. Yeah, we want to win a championship here. It's not playoffs. Yeah, playoffs is good, but win big, win a championship. That's what we want to do here. Yeah, and sports is about competing. Yeah, so in our mindset, that's the kind of players like we want to bring. When we interviewed Scotty, he mentioned winning 100 times. He kept on talking about winning. Every time you talk to Freddie, I just met with Freddie a couple of days ago, and it's winning, win. It comes out of their mouth all the time. You talk to all the players, win. The players you get like that are the players that are going to win. That's what they believe in. Whether their personalities are different, they have to have that mindset of winning. And that's what we want, because I think that's what sports is about.
So it's really interesting. Masai talked about winning and what kind of winner Fred VanVleet is, right? And I think it's ultimately sometimes you have to make a bet on a player and bet on their edge, their want to win. That's the edge I'm talking about in a lot of my videos. It's about like an edge to win, not necessarily like mean, like punch a guy, but the edge to want to win and do whatever it takes to win. And I think there are special guys that are like that in the league, and I think Masai put his finger right on the pulse of what makes VanVleet different from Delon Wright mentality wise. Like I said in part one, when I said he didn't have the IQ and the mentality, I meant that mentality, the winning mentality. Like, do anything. It doesn't matter if you look dumb or your shot gets blocked. Go in there and make sure you're trying to win, right? It's only about winning. Nothing else. Nothing else. We can love a guy's story. We can love everything about him, but if he's not a winning player, unfortunately, decisions have to be made. And I think sometimes we have to weigh certain decisions. So let's look at the playoffs, which in the initial Delon Wright clip, where he said he had his chance to step up where the team needed him, right? And we're going to look at what that looks like, all right? And obviously, VanVleet was hurt this year coming into the playoffs. We knew that, and kind of is piece in part why we got swept that year. But there are a lot of other factors which I'm not going to go into at this exact second because we're trying to compare players, not necessarily talk about the team as a whole. But winning is obviously a big key. So let's dive into it a little bit deeper, separate, and then we can kind of look through it, right? So Delon right at the top right here played 10 games, so he played the 6 and then the 4 in the sweep, right? So 21.5 minutes played. Sorry, it's kind of skewed, but I'll lay it out here. So 3.1 field goal makes, 6.8 field goal attempts for 4.56 total field goal percentage, 0.9 on 3-point makes, 2.1 on 3-point attempts, and a 4.29 on 3-point average. So he's showing, all right, okay, wow, okay. So he really did kind of step up and really was a piece to the win, right? We're seeing kind of his numbers from the year. We're looking at them, right? His total field goal was down, same attempts, higher clip, right? We're looking at see his 2-pointers went down. They had a better defense on him, right? So estimated went down, right? So let's look at free throws next. So free throws went up, same volume pretty much, same role. See, Dwayne Casey, that's his problem. He doesn't adjust to the playoffs properly, where we saw when Fred was being used in the playoffs, his numbers, his minutes, his attempts all went up. But Dwayne Casey, it's almost like he wants to perfect this machine and hope this perfected machine can just roll through the playoffs without really adjusting anything. And he's trying to perfect one way of playing when in the playoffs, different matchups entail different styles of playing, and hence needing to experiment throughout the year where Nick has a different philosophy. And so obviously we can see some of the same main lines through a lot of these early year players when Dwayne Casey was the coach. And hensing back to what I said in the Nick Nurse deep dive, which is also a great story and great person. I hate the kind of slander and the minutes talk right now. Friggin' Masai compares him to like Messi, Ronaldo, and Kobe in the off season, and then and we're not giving him to the Lakers, and people are up in arms that the Lakers want Nick, but then like a month later, they're crushing him about minutes and not understanding what's going on with the team internally and understanding what's going on with the minutes fully and trying to make decisions of trying to replace Nick based on him playing or giving the ball more to VanVleet or Scotty or not understanding this is all taken into account. I have a great clip gonna come in a second. Hold on. But let's continue. So field goal, yeah, or free throws. All right, yeah, okay. So rebounds, similar, less rebounds. So it's showing that like he does he doesn't want to battle harder, or maybe doesn't have that edge. I don't know. Maybe it's just scheme wise, right? Limiting that he was getting limited from getting rebounds based on maybe good boxing out and stuff. Who knows? But ultimately, I think there's an issue when like you don't see the numbers kind of stay the same or jump in the playoffs. You might think there's certain indications of maybe mentality wise he's not that winning guy that's ready to put everything out there to just win one game. Doesn't matter if it's game one of the season or the last game of the season, right? The big one, game six, championship series, right? So I think ultimately you do have to look at some of these metrics and entail an understanding to each player individually. So look, he got more steals, okay. Up another block, okay. So similar minutes, so like similar attempts, similar everything, and he got zero point 0.6 more. So he showed a bit of development through the year, I think. So like his blocks are up. Okay, yeah. So turnovers, less, less fouling. So he did show quality. So this is the problem also too, when you have a guy that doesn't necessarily fit or is being utilized, the spot could be utilized by someone else better, and you have to make certain decisions and bring guys in, like Masai said afterwards. But ultimately, you have to take these indicators and make judgments off of them, right? And I think his desire to win was less. But let's look at Van Vliet. We don't let anyone off the hook here. We go Project Truth always, straight truth. No no hiding anything. So obviously Van Vliet was hurt, but we still got to look at his numbers here, right? So 6 games, 1 game started, 19 minutes, about the same field goal attempts. Whoa, bottomed out. Wow. Whew. Oy, look at this. Oh my gosh. This is terrible. Oh my geez. Wow. Okay. Wow, he's getting it's I'm gonna have to tap out for my man here, Fred VanVleet. Still able to do assists, no stealing, no blocking. Wow, that's tough. He was really hurt though that year. I can vouch for that. But ultimately, the voting happens for six man before the playoffs, so I think this could have made other like teams want to push him out, not understanding that maybe he was hurt and has shown quality in crunch time in the playoffs. You might think he's a choker right off these stats, right? So it's really interesting how you need to compare the timeline and understand different things like injuries and stuff compared to certain time frames, right? Especially with the smaller 6-game sample size. If he's hurt for like 3 of those games and then half okay and he sees the team really needs him and he's pushing through pain, his numbers are going to show that and affect and be like that, right? But that's a winner, right? He's willing to push it all through. He's willing to do his job and still, even if the numbers look ugly, he's willing to stand on what happened and take responsibility for it. And I think Van Vliet did clearly take responsibility for that year, and I think he really fueled him. I think this is really interesting. A great cartoon picture I found of the bench mob. Obviously, we have a bunch of great characters here. Van Vliet, Pascal are two main guys from that group. Then we have Norm, Pirtle, and we have CJ and Delon, right? So let's check out the voting that year because this was really interesting. Boy, it was funny. Someone said, "Hey, before the championship year, nobody even knew who Van Vliet was, but that guy was clearly a casual because people knew who Van Vliet was." So let's look at his bench mob 6-man role where he got the third place. Obviously, Lou Williams crushed it. He got a lot of because he's such an offensive force. But Fred VanVleet is also a defensive force and also a great leader and organizer. And we know Lou will. We talked on him in the roadmap video, right? Eric Gordon, another great prospect, age 29, age 31. Look at these older dogs, right? So he got a decent percentage of the points, right? And then there's third place, second year, Fred VanVleet, Toronto. Got one first place vote, but then there's also 2 place votes and 3 place votes. So it's a share dynamic. And I want to post Jakob Pearl to show you the comparison of someone that's in 12th place versus third. It's completely different. Like the volley or the numbers drop off completely. And this is actually a higher percentage. This is actually 12% clean, right? In a sense of share, right? So like Van Vliet has some skills. So I think obviously going into this year, the Kawhi trade and the team changed. Casey was let go. There was a lot of changes. The team kind of changed. The mission changed. I think it was really interesting that team at that point. But I want to go into something that's really interesting based on the mentorship point of bringing in Kawhi and stuff, right? Let's go into.
Normally, when you subtract a player like Kyle from a team that's so central and entrenched in the team's DNA on and off the court, there's an adjustment period, and I'm sure there was here too. But from the outside looking in, it seems like the transition was pretty smooth this year. Is that what it felt like to you? And if so, what do you attribute that to?
I think I attribute it to, I think the kind of players that Kyle, DeMar, Kawhi, those guys, Serge, Marc Gasol, those guys were. They transferred, a lot of what they did to the other players. And that's the truth. Yeah, you see some of those tendencies with these guys that played with them. And then the fabric of the culture. Those guys built a culture for us. And we're proud of that. We're very proud that those guys were part of our program, and they elevated our program to a certain extent. These guys have to continue that. Those guys set a level that they have to continue. And that's where character, that's where tradition, that's where everything you build You know, inside you as a sportsman, you learn. And Freddie learned that. He saw that. He saw that every day. Pascal learned that. They saw that every day. OG, all these guys. And that's what hopefully we try to teach here. I think the coaching staff too. You know, those things that I think Nick Nurse has expect to win in everything he does and he says. Yeah, we expect to win. And that builds that.
So we heard an awesome clip and how Masai thinks about this whole kind of year and what happened this year and sort of the different guys that came in and what he looks at going forward. Like he said that Kawhi and Marc Gasol and Ibaka and Lowry and DeRozan brought a culture and brought what they have to the table and raised the bar. And it's important for our younger guys that were in a younger position at that point, like Fred, OG, Pascal, to really take in and absorb what they were kind of offering at that time because it's really important. You only have so many years of those type of like mentors, so you need them to like kind of soak in like a super sponge, like the crazy commercials with the high tech sponges and stuff, right? You need to be one of those. And I think ultimately sponging and learning go hand in hand with development. I think a player's ability to learn and improve is directly correlated to their ability to understand and take in that information. And if a guy's not really able to take in that information, like Delon kind of said that they didn't really tell him what to do, they more showed him through example, putting up extra shots and stuff. And that's not what Van Vliet got from that whole situation. It's key to see that Van Vliet was more engaged on the intellectual end and was able to take more from those mentors. So I think it's really key to understand different prospects' ability to absorb information. And interesting enough, Konono, my man Koloko, putting up a crazy game and stuff. And I think he's really interesting. I'm gonna touch on him a little bit in the end of the series, but let's continue on. And I think it's really good to start off with what DeLon has to say about this year.
And also, like I said, man, about the thing about Toronto, like wanting good people, like that stuff matters too to so many teams, man. Because at that level, everyone's good, but like what sets you apart? Like what makes you better than the next guy? And a lot of the times for most teams, it's being a good person, you know, working hard, being ready when your name is called, you know. So I mean, it was good that you got to experience that and kind of propel you to where you are now.
For sure.
But so you were traded the next season, if I'm correct, right?
Yeah, the All-Star, the deadline, yeah.
How was that whole process, man? Like, did it come out of nowhere, or was it like you kind of heard some trade rumors, your agent, nothing?
No, so no, I'll explain. So during the year, my first 3 years was Dwayne Casey, the head coach, and then Nick Nurse was the head coach my fourth year. So then that's the year we got Kawhi. So my minutes were like up and down that whole year. Like they were just up and down, up and down. I'm like, yo, this is my contract year. This is the time where I should be, on the floor a lot, balling out. So towards the deadline, my minutes were still like up and down, like up and down. So me and my agent were like, yeah, it's time to find, a team where I can play a lot more and show what I can do. So I think we had like Orlando and Detroit because the guy that drafted me, Jeff Waldman, he was in Orlando. So we were like, me and my agent, and we were working on getting there. So I think at the deadline, they had a deal for me to go to Orlando. And then I think, what was that, Memphis, they came in with the Gasol trade. And so the last minute, they threw me in that deal. So I ended up going to Memphis instead of going to Orlando. And we wanted to get traded, but we knew that they were going to have a chance to win the championship. But it's always a risk. You never know if you're gonna do it. So like, I'd
Yeah,
rather
it's so
go for
many
the
other
money.
factors that go into that, man. So many other
Exactly.
factors. So
So
So we heard a lot of stuff from Delon Wright, interesting Magic proposal trade that he almost went to the Magic and stuff. He's saying that his minutes were up and down in his contract year. Like he said, fourth year, yep. And I think that's where the issue is because I think third year is really a great place to kind of make your bones. And then the fourth year is going to be transitioning to a new role, right? And I think ultimately, I think the coaching styles also mattered too. I also heard him say on another interview, which prompted me to go looking for a clip, where he said that once Nick came in as coach, he knew his kind of days were numbered. I don't understand the context fully of that statement, and I would have loved to bring it back and kind of dissect that statement, but I'll leave it there for that. I don't know the context of exactly what that meant, but in my feeling, it's probably that Fred VanVleet was closer to Nick in the sort of style and the way he likes point guards with the IQ and able to shift play dynamics quickly on the fly and stuff. And I think ultimately Delon Wright probably saw the writing on the wall, the tea leaves, and knew kind of it was his time up. I think players run the distance sometimes, or they kind of read the situation from the inside. And we didn't even know that DeLon wanted out, but that's part of a good culture and organization to handle problems internally and make sure that people are still taken care of at the end of the day. I know he wanted to go to the Magic at first, but he did find a place with the Grizz, and then the Grizz traded him to the Mavs for 2 second-round picks. So, interesting enough, like, that's kind of the compensation package for him directly was more like 2 second-round picks coming out of, like, a first that kinda didn't make that starter level and wasn't going to hit that starter level in most people's eyes, right? So let's actually dive into what he said there because I think it's really interesting how Van Vliet starts the series off talking about you have to make your own consistency. And he was kind of ending this part off with kind of talking about how his minutes were up and down in his contract year, and I think that shows focus. I know money is a big part of this, but I think focus on what mattered that year really kind of maybe soured him to Nick Nurse in a way because we heard the way Nick Nurse coaches. He expects to win, he coaches to win. Nothing matters more than winning, right? Winning every game, winning every series, and that's how you build a winning culture through bringing in guys that only care about winning as mentors, having a coach that only cares about winning, having a president of the whole operation that only cares about winning, having every person in the organization down to the ball boy, down to anybody needs to be focused on winning the championship. And if you're not, I don't know. And I think that's the kind of culture he was talking about passing down in this year. So I think he sees this year as a really crucial point for who was here and who is able to make growth afterwards and from this year. Like he said, Fred Van Vliet and Siakam and OG now instill a lot of information from that year and need to be the conduits for the next guys coming up in a sense. And I think that's where we can kind of draw the connection to the 2 points where we saw Van Vliet learn really well from the leaders. And now Fred Van Vliet is kind of a champion mentor leader, right? So I think it's really interesting to see the role upgrade and dynamics, the way that the Raptors different gauges and evaluate different situations. And I think it's key to always kind of bring in the raw context and data to really understand certain things of why an undrafted player got pushed up over a guy that was a 20th pick. Like, draft position isn't everything. It's development and what you become, right? Starting point is just a starting point. I think you need to really look at the growth of each player and not really look at exactly them right now in this point because it's just a snapshot. I think that's a phrase that's used around the team, a snapshot. These are snapshots of two different players, and I'm showing the context between the differences and trying to illuminate people on the decision between the two players and adding more context of how Masai makes those decisions, I think is really key, and understanding the way he sees things because he's ultimately the one that's making these decisions down to like he's the one that has to take it on the back, right? And carry the mistakes and failures and the successes and victories of different personnel changes and decisions that he's directly making, right? So I think ultimately this year was big, and I think the tone of the team changed, like the urgency of what was needed this year, less mistakes. Like MJ used to, this is funny, like real ones, like the winning mentality. This is part of it too. MJ wouldn't say bring me my points and show me like my assists and whatever, how many steals I got. Show me, bring me just a stat sheet that says turnovers, missed shots, and missed free throws. And he was about eliminating mistakes. So it's important to eliminate mistakes to become a better winning player. It's not just about producing. It's about producing without mistakes. And I think that's ultimately that winning mentality that we're building, the winning culture that takes each step properly. We need to learn and test these guys multiple tons of times before they even get to the starting lineup. So I think pushing things forward is really an easy way to kind of screw up and have like the Knicks and other teams that kind of push their young guys up too early and they fade. And I'm going to talk a bit more about it with the Malachi Flynn situation, but let's go into the final year, the decision year, right? So let's actually go into the numbers and compare. So 48 games. So obviously he got traded at the trade deadline. VanVleet continued. VanVleet was starting a lot more games than him, clearly getting a lot more minutes, looking at more starter quality minutes, as you can see, up close to 30, right? So let's see attempts. Attempts getting a third more, but time, okay, we can weigh in those factors. Field goal coming right up on his neck. Like he's pretty much closed the gap completely almost, like, right? So 3-point attempts, VanVleet's already going volume nuts at this point. Like I said, once you start hitting 5 at a decent clip, they're not going to let you do that. So they're going to start changing their defense and stuff. And he's really shown an ability to put up volume and hit a ridiculously great clip, right? 2-pointers still coming up, right? Still coming up. We can see it's an improvement from last year. Or, sorry, yeah, a little bit, a tick of an improvement. So he's still going, still working on things, right? So free throw, better free throw, right? Delon still can get to the basket a bit more, but I think ultimately we can see what's going on here. I think Fred VanVleet fits Lowry way better as a shooter and kind of limiting his playmaking times, but can still be an off ball threat and shot creator, right? I think that's people want to get stuck in this just one role when you have variety and versatility, that's the main goal of this, having guys that can play against any matchup, any kind of lineup, and having a bunch of guys that you can kind of use different combinations with and be really effective against these different sized and molded teams that you face in the playoffs that are elite at what they're doing, their style, right? And you need to have a style that's adaptive, that's able to beat some of the best like singular styles. So it's really interesting how this all works out in the end, where VanVleet, all right, see like total rebounds. Yeah, but the minutes we gotta remember minute scaling, right? So assists obviously way more, right? Steals getting up there, able to, right? More turnovers, but more assists, right? We always have to look at the ratio. And it looks like Van Vliet's ratio has kind of stabilized at about a third, under a third around there. So he's starting to really develop. And this is only third year Van Vliet, right? So I was talking about how it's key for 30 years to pop. And it looks like he's popping into what he's going to become, right? A volume 3 guy, kind of playmaking a bit, some defense, right? 11 points. So you're seeing kind of the bare bones of what they escalate up into a starter position, which is key. So I think ultimately we can see the clear reasons why Delon was let go and Fred VanVleet was pushed up from all the history that they've shown up until this point. Delon had 4 years to show more, and VanVleet showed more in 3 years, right? So ultimately, you have to pick the guy that is going to show better long-term traction, and not just the starting point, because obviously Delon was better in the first year than Fred in his first year, but it's about adjustments and able to soak up that kind of mentor knowledge that really helps you secure your place and eventually become a starting piece, like Masai said, where you are instilled with a lot of culture and winning and a lot of different play dynamics and position kind of dynamics that you got from Lowry. So he's kind of got the Lowry mold in him, but he's also got Kawhi in him, and he's got a whole bunch of players all mentoring into him. And that's where Masai was saying you could see kind of particular certain things kind of simulate where you could see a player look like another player in a certain way. So I want to touch on fit a little bit going forward. Obviously, you heard the value that Fred instills at this point, but people are stuck on the 6'9" thing, and I think it's really key to understand this point as well. And I think Masai delivers it perfectly, like always.
How come they are exceptions? What makes Fred in particular able to, you know, stay and do all the things you guys want to do on a roster that's full of guys who don't look like them?
He's a winner. He's a champion. He's an all-star. He beats everything. That's bigger than 6'9". That's the truth. Bigger than 6'9". That guy's heart is bigger. You need those guys on your team every day. Do I think Malachi can become like that? Yes. He's got the skills. He's got the ability. Now he just has to, like show it in some kind of way. And we hope to give that opportunity to show it.
So we heard Masai's argument to the people that think VanVleet's too small going forward. And the decision was made based on all the things that we've encompassed in this video. But I think it's getting a little bit too long, so I'm going to leave it off with this great, great, like, speech and kind of trust in Masai for real. Listen to his words today and actually take them in and believe them. I think that's real important. The real ones know this. The real ones actually truly trust in Masai. So let's hear what we should be trusting, in my opinion.
Raptors never wanted to be stuck in the middle Where do you see the roster as it relates to the context of the Eastern Conference and ultimately competing for your goal, which is to bring another title to Toronto?
Yeah, first of all, Eric, honestly, we're going to create our own direction. You know, like we don't have to go with the wave of what the NBA is doing. We're such a copycat league, you know, like, we have to, I think, ride our own opportunities. And for now, our opportunities are, I think, building around the young players that we have and letting them grow. We have very young veterans. They are almost at the same age at when we had Kyle and DeMar. So that's Fred, that's OG, that's Pascal. We want to build around these guys and the Bouchers and Ken Birches. All these players, I think, they have a level that they need to get to. And then there's the young crop. I think you guys saw coming up that we just drafted Scotty Barnes and Delano. We just got Precious in a trade. Malachi. All these guys we want to really like develop in some kind of way. And I think we have some sort of good history from doing that. Our three main players come from our development program. So I said it here when I sat here 8 years ago, we're going to develop players and we're going to build on that. And I'm saying it again that we're going to continue to develop these players and we're going to find a way to win a championship here based on the development of our players. And whatever comes from that, sometimes trades, sometimes you acquire through free agency, we're just not going to sit here and cry that players are not coming here. That's not what we're about. I think we've gone past that.
So there, Messiah delivers an epic speech on what the next part of our series here is going to look like, part 3. It's going to come out next Saturday, so keep an eye. But he was talking on some great points of development, and I want to talk about that in housekeeping. Okay, so I'm just going to start it off with what is Project Truth? I think Project Truth is just the real ones putting the truth out there from what they've learned through the years of actually being a student of the game, because real ones means student of the game, knowing that they don't know everything about basketball and continue to always learn and try to get the most truth they can possible to be able to get things right and be able to talk on players in an appropriate way that is really constructive. It takes basketball IQ to say more than a player sucks. So I think Project Truth is kind of about that, being fair, being truthful. And it's the grassroots fans doing this and have been doing this for years and years and years. And I think I really reacted fast to certain things that was happening with my channel. I think my aggressive promotion style at first was really off-putting, and I think I took that internally because I'm not a great promotion guy. I don't really like to talk about myself. I just like to talk on the information and debate the actual information, less about the actual like person-to-person dynamics in the debate. So I took it really personally and I kind of lashed out a bit with a rant. And I got feedback from the people that I want to serve better, the people that really matter. I think this is about serving the real ones. And I think when you get into your ego about things, you're not able to serve the people the best you can. And I think I just want to clean my channel, do clean out all my subs, the people that I don't feel are serving the real ones honestly and based on the pureness, because I believe you can only trust things when they're coming from a no motive person. So I don't want money, I don't want any of that stuff. I just want to inform Raptors, real ones, so they can have more knowledge and up the level of discussion in in the fan spaces. Like I said, and I keep plugging, Raptors Freak Lex has a great stream every morning, 9:30 Eastern. We talk, we debate, we talk about the different intricacies of ball. We're all learning. I'm learning from Lex. He's learning from me. We're all learning from each other. It's a great place to really kind of workshop different ideas and maybe throw something out there and not feel like you're going to get like turf down completely, and maybe realize and ask those questions that you're wondering about the game because you honestly love the game a lot too, right? So I think the champion of the logical phase 2 is the real ones that have been fighting tooth and nail this whole time for this team, the diehard, the grassroots people. I want to focus back on them, and I want to show through my actions and work on not getting my voice out there. I'm not looking for more people. I have a great section of people that watch my videos and are giving me feedback. So I'm understanding my audience better. And now it's time to really focus in and developing that message for the real ones, my audience, the people that want to come here and learn some great stuff about a great team. And there'll be other sections of audiences from other people from other teams coming to look at what we're doing because we're honestly doing a lot of great stuff, and I just want to display that, keep it all on the team. I'm not looking for a job or anything. I just enjoy being a fan and being able to give my real takes, and hopefully instead of being frustrated and talking down on the fan base, it's about more. Let's get everyone's IQ up and let's give the information out without being nasty and being like venomy about it. You know what I mean? I think ultimately it's about the positive energy, and people tend to learn when they're being talked to like human beings. And I think that's ultimately the point of Project Truth and what it's about. Just really just trying to get the truth out there, like really focus on the truth to get growth for people, like help them grow their IQ. Because someone took me aside and have taught me things about the game and stuff too. Like it's all about passing it forward. And I think it's a really good place to end off with like that and talking about Van Vliet kind of pushing that mentorship forward that he learned from Kawhi. And I think that's all that really matters, just pushing it forward and being pure about it. I don't have any ulterior motives. I'm not trying to be biased in any way. I'm just trying to give my honest feedback. And if you know something better or whatever, you can comment and let me know. Like, I love being corrected. I want the truest information possible. So I'll go to the raw data sources and look at information, but maybe someone has a different way of looking at it, helps me understand different ideas and theories. So I'm really open to hearing all types of suggestions and different things from everyone, from any level of basketball fan or anyone. You can learn the like the most craziest ideas from the guy that maybe doesn't know as much because he's looking from the outside. Like there's different elements of being a person that displays their voice on the Raptors and having a unique voice. Like I said, like a tool in the tool belt, like a screwdriver, a hammer. They're not all for the same purpose, but they're all useful in their own way in different examples. And I just want to offer that service and help grow the respect that we get in other fan spaces by knowing ball more. And I think that's my championship here. Just trust in Masai, my bottom pillar, family family team together. This is all what it's about for me. And I just want logical phase 2 to really hammer down that point and show you guys that I really care about the people that are here supporting me, and I want to grow that. And I'm going to focus more in the spaces of Project Truth, where Project Truth is the thing that matters the most, not ego and money and all that. I think I'm just going to focus on those spaces and go full Project Truth. And I want my actions to really show that and be pure so people can hear my message and believe it, right? I think believability and credibility and rep really matter, and I try to push myself out there to create a rep. But now that I've kind of attracted the right people, it's time to step back and develop to become a better creator and learn from editing clips and finding more clips and learning how to focus and not go on so many tangents and kind of be able to be effective with less words, right? I think that's the growth and development that I'm talking about, just being more effective and maybe taking less time to say certain things, but still getting the great point across in the full context of everything. A lot of groundwork being laid this one. All right. Now onto the part of it, I guess. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to milk views and stuff. I did state in an earlier housekeeping that I was moving at some point, and I think the move I want to signal a change in my promotion style and phase two. And so phase two is starting. I'm through the week. This week I'm moving, so it's a little bit nice to maybe just because this video is originally like 2.5 hours, right? So cut it down to like an hour and a bit, and then we'll have part three next week. Gives a chance people to catch up and digest on the first two parts, and then we'll come and hammer home the Flynn stuff. Masai obviously touched on Flynn in his speech there. I got some more Masai words and stuff. I'm holding back a couple clips where he talks about Masai and adds more context to the or sorry, adds more context to the Malachi situation and all that kind of stuff. And we're going to try to make some connections in part three. So I hope everyone really enjoyed that. And I just really want to thank everyone for liking, commenting, subbing. The real ones are coming out to show support. And I love it. I just Man, I feel so blessed anyone's even listening to my content and really take it in. Anything I have to say is just a really true blessing. And Mike G out. Logical Raptors fanatic. Mic drop.